Good morning. Good morning. We're going to get started here with our hearing. And just a reminder I've been asked to give to all members, you press the button to mute, and you press it again if you want to speak. Good morning and welcome to this shadow hearing titled Kidnapped and Disappeared, Trump's Assault on Chicago. I'm Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal. I represent Washington's 7th Congressional District, and I'm the ranking member of the Immigration Subcommittee of the House Judiciary Committee. I want to welcome all of our witnesses. Thank you so much for being here this morning and for helping us shed a light on what is happening to your families, to your communities, and to your city. With 19 members of Congress here from all over the country, this is the largest act of congressional immigration oversight since Trump took office. We are pleased to have with us Democratic Caucus Chair Pete Aguilar, Congressional Hispanic Caucus Chair Adriano Espaillat, several members of the House Judiciary Committee, as well as members from the wider Democratic Caucus. I want to give special thanks to Representative Danny Davis for hosting us here in his district, to Cook County President Tony Preckwinkle and Commissioner Alma Anaya for hosting us in this room, to Representatives Chuy Garcia, Delia Ramirez, and Robin Kelly for their partnership in organizing today's field hearing, as well as a number of roundtables on how the Trump administration is attacking the people of Chicago under the guise of enforcing immigration law. I also want to recognize the leadership of Judge Ruben Castillo, who is chairing a new commission to document abuses happening here in Chicago and is with us in this audience. This is the fourth shadow hearing that I've held on the ways in which the Trump administration is destroying our immigration system and trampling on our constitutional rights by kidnapping and disappearing people of all immigration statuses, including U.S. citizens. Today, we continue our congressional duties on this fact-finding mission. You will hear a few of these stories from folks right here in Chicago and learn how this impacts all of us and how the administration is using its operations in cities like Chicago, LA, and Washington, D.C. as a blueprint for the rest of the country. A few housekeeping items before we begin. While today's event is not a formal hearing, I will operate it as if it were, with opening statements from our witnesses and 5 minutes of questions from our members. We do have a timer that is here to help people keep track of the time, and since we do have many members here, I ask that you please stick to the time allotted for your questions so that we can end the hearing on time and move straight into the press conference that is scheduled to happen after this. I now recognize myself for an opening statement. Donald Trump set the stage for his invasion of Chicago by posting a meme on social media site saying that the city was, quote, about to find out why it's called the Department of War, end quote. He then told military leaders that he wanted to use American cities as, quote, training grounds for our military. And he really wasn't kidding. Here in Chicago, the administration is going to war with its own citizens, unleashing a kind of violence and inhumanity that we never thought we would see in an American city. The images and stories emerging from Chicago are part of the bigger picture of a president who abuses his power in violation of the Constitution and due process rights, a president who strips health care from millions of Americans while unleashing terror on residents of American cities that may have started with immigrants of all statuses, but extends far beyond to all residents, including U.S. citizens. Here in Chicago, under the cover of darkness, armed federal agents rappelled from Black Hawk helicopters to invade a South Shore apartment building. They dragged families out of bed, some naked, zip-tied children outside. Many affected were Black American U.S. citizens. Despite the Trump administration's claim that the building was frequented by Tren de Aragua members, only one of the 37 people who were arrested during the raid had any ties to the gang. The uncontrolled violence has separated families and inflicted chaos on communities and businesses. Masked men on the streets, kidnapping and disappearing people of all immigration statuses, including U.S. citizens. Federal agents pointing guns at unarmed civilians, tackling teenagers to the ground for the crime of running while black, and deploying tear gas in residential areas around children and schools. Racial profiling of people simply for how they look, what language they speak, or what street corner they congregate on. All actions that are keeping families at home terrified to shop at the grocery store or even visit the doctor. Stunningly, even the Border Patrol chief, Gregory Bovino, has personally been involved throwing tear gas in violation of a court order. And even as federal agents terrorize and dehumanize people, they have lied over and over again about the people that they are arresting, adding insult to injury. This is not normal, and we cannot treat it as such. Instead of working with elected officials who govern this state and the cities, they are working, the Trump administration is using the power of the federal government to provoke violence, harming the long-term health, vitality, and safety of communities. Even judges are ruling against the administration's overreach, concluding that there is no substantial evidence that, quote, a danger of rebellion is brewing. Let me be clear that the majority of people that are filling the ICE detention centers do not even have a single criminal conviction. According to ICE's own data, 65% of immigrants detained have not been convicted of a crime. And on top of that, of those with any criminal conviction at all, a whopping 40% of the convictions are based on immigration or traffic offenses. Meanwhile, U.S. citizens have also been illegally detained. And just yesterday, we heard directly from a member of the U.S. Armed Services who was giving his life to serve our country, but came home to find that his father had been deported. These are not isolated stories. They are happening with a frightening regularity. They remind us that when you undermine the rights and the protections of one group of people, you undermine them for every single person. This is what happens when the administration, with the full blessing of the Supreme Court, is using racial profiling to go after anyone they think could be undocumented. They arrest citizens, green card holders, and undocumented people who have lived in our country for decades. People who have lived alongside us, raising American families and contributing to the U.S. economy. This abuse of power from the Trump administration, though, is backfiring. The vast majority of Americans do not agree with these indiscriminate and abusive enforcement actions. The vast majority want a humane and working immigration system so that we can continue to benefit from the tremendous contributions of immigrants. House Democrats will do everything in our power to hold this lawless administration accountable and to connect the dots for the American people on health care, on immigration, and our fundamental constitutional rights. I'm so grateful to all of our witnesses for being here today to share their thoughts and perspectives, and I look forward to our discussion. It is now my pleasure to introduce today's witnesses. Lawrence Benito is the Executive Director of the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights, or ICER. Since 2012, he has overseen successful campaigns to pass landmark pro-immigrant policies at the state level, shepherded the expansion of essential immigrant services programs, and furthered ICER's standing as a national leader in immigrant rights organizing. On the national level, Mr. Benito serves as the board treasurer of the Fair Immigration Movement, or FIRM, and on the executive committee for FIRM Action. A Peace Corps alum and the son of immigrants from the Philippines, Mr. Benito lives on the south side of Chicago with his wife, 4 kids, and 2 dogs. Genesis O. Ms. O is a 19-year-old freshman at Roosevelt Institute in Chicago. Her mother, Laura, is currently detained in El Paso as a result of a DHS enforcement in Chicago. Laura has been continuously present in the United States for over 20 years. She is a successful entrepreneur and businesswoman who was also successfully raising 2 children of her own prior to this Border Patrol Home Depot parking lot raid and subsequent detention by ICE. Reverend David Black is a senior pastor at First Presbyterian Church of Chicago and an ordained teaching elder in the Presbyterian Church. He began pastoring First Church in 2020. He is spiritually rooted in Quakerism and grew up in a diverse array of Protestant and evangelical churches around the world. He graduated from Princeton Theological Seminary in 2018 with a Master of Divinity, Master of Arts in Christian Education and Formation, with a focus on ministry with young people and a certificate in Black Church Studies. Pastor Black's ministry has been focused on empowering individuals and communities who have been marginalized and dispossessed. Last month, while peacefully protesting and praying outside ICE's Broadview facility, Pastor Black was shot in the head by a pepper ball gun. Bob Ryder is the president of the Chicago Federation of Labor, or CFL, the third largest central labor council of the National AFL-CIO. Mr. Ryder is a third-generation member of the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150. His family's roots in the labor movement run deep with backhoe operators, crane mechanics, railroad workers, public safety officers, and teachers. In his role as the president of the CFL, Mr. Ryder serves on executive and advisory boards for labor, civic, and community organizations across Chicago and Cook County, including the Cook County Health and Hospital System, United Way of Metropolitan Chicago, and ABOC Bank. Mr. Ryder holds a bachelor's and master's degree in political science from Eastern Illinois University and a Juris Doctor degree from IIT Chicago-Kent College of Law. Juliet de Jesus Alejandra grew up in Chicago's Latin Northwest Side and is the executive director of Palenque LSNA. Palenque LSNA is a proud member of the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights, Organized Communities Against Deportation, and Illinois Access to Justice Networks. Together, they represent hundreds of community organizations and thousands of neighbors rapidly responding to the intensification of the increasingly dangerous federal occupation of the city and the state that affects all Illinoisans. Ms. De Jesus Alejandre was selected by the Field Foundation for the Leaders for a New Chicago Award. She has also received the Kellogg Foundation's Emerging Leaders Fellowship and the Cultivate Women of Color Fellowship. She holds an MA in Community Development from North Park University in Chicago and a BA in Sociology and Latin American and Latino Studies from the University of Illinois at Chicago. Ani Huamani is a proud immigrant from Peru and a mom to two young boys being raised on the Southwest Side. Ani came into organizing in the labor movement by supporting unionized hotel staff fighting for fair contracts. She holds a master's degree in public administration from the University of Illinois at Chicago and currently serves as the Treatment Not Trauma campaign strategist and immigration defense coordinator at the Brighton Park Neighborhood Council. She currently helps co-lead the Southwest Rapid Response Team and assists in coordinating Know Your Rights trainings throughout different organizations and schools in the Southwest. Finally, Mr. Fee, Kevin Fee, is the legal director for the ACLU of Illinois. Since joining the ACLU in 2022, Mr. Fee has worked on a wide range of constitutional issues, including serving as counsel to oversee implementation of the ACLU's consent decree against the Illinois Department of Juvenile Justice. Before becoming legal director earlier this year, Mr. Fee was named as the first director of the Illinois Constitution and Democracy Project at the ACLU of Illinois. A graduate of the University of California, Berkeley, and Harvard Law School, before joining ACLU, Mr. Fee was a partner in the Chicago office of Sidley Austin, where he worked for nearly 20 years. While at the firm, Mr. Fee handled a broad range of civil and criminal litigation and investigations and chaired the office's pro bono committee, working closely with civil rights groups and other public interest organizations. We welcome all of our distinguished witnesses and thank them for participating in today's hearing. We ask that you summarize your testimony in 4 minutes, and to help you stay within that time, there is a timer in the back here to help you keep track of time. Mr. Benito, you may begin.
Good morning. My name is Lawrence Benito, and I'm the Executive Director of the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights, a statewide coalition of over 100 member organizations working to make sure all people, including immigrants, are afforded the dignity and respect that everyone deserves. ICR has deep roots across the state, as we will be celebrating our 40th anniversary next year. Thank you to Congresswoman Jayapal for organizing this hearing. to members of the Illinois delegation for your leadership, and for all the members who came to Chicago and Illinois to bear witness to what is happening at this moment. Since the beginning of September, we have seen a marked escalation by ICE and CBP across Chicagoland, with a surge of agents whose only goal is to brutalize our region, disappear our neighbors, and disrupt daily life for all people. It's clear from this operation that the Department of Homeland Security is an increasingly lawless, unaccountable agency, and that ICE and CBP agents are going rogue by violating constitutional rights and bringing violence to our communities every single day. These actions have devastated communities, disrupted workplaces, and created a climate of fear that affects everyone. This DHS escalation is a direct assault on our families, our freedoms, and our futures. The breadth of this operation cannot be understated. It impacts city neighborhoods, suburban towns, and beyond. The daily violence reaches citizens and non-citizens alike. ICE murdered Silverio Villegas Gonzalez, a father living in the suburb of Franklin Park, after dropping his children off at school. DHS staged the violent mass raid on the South Shore community, where CBP staged a middle-of-the-night stunt meant to disappear immigrants and dehumanize citizens. At an overnight raid in Elgin, Illinois, recorded for social media with Secretary Noem in tow, agents detained citizens as part of their disruptive operation, in addition to separating an immigrant household. CPB staged a march through downtown Chicago, where they abducted entire families enjoying a day in the city. Greg Bovino explicitly admitted to racial profiling during this stunt. This is also to say nothing of the raids and neighborhood escalations that ICE and CBP conduct on a daily basis, including the use of chemical weapons, intimidation, and recklessness. They never present warrants and routinely lie about the nature of their operations. But our communities are organizing and asserting our rights to protect our neighborhoods as best we can. Since last November, we have ramped up our Know Your Rights education program. We operate the Family Support Hotline to ensure families have access to needed community and legal resources. And we coordinate a statewide network of rapid response teams who observe and document immigration enforcement activity, which helps to spread the reality of ICE's violence, as well as create a record of the administration's hostility. Every day we see the power of our community in the face of horror that otherwise feels unending. To close, this is a moment for all eyes to be on Chicago and Illinois, from the halls of Congress to everyday people across the country. Every day, the Trump administration is becoming more like a regime, bullying its way into a power grab, one that is bringing its lawless actions to our state, our city, and our communities. Congress and everyday Americans must see that this is the administration using the government as a weapon against its own people. As we organize to ensure that the rights of all people are upheld and continue to advocate for an immigration system that prioritizes dignity and respect for all, we ask members of Congress, especially those representing districts outside of Illinois, to keep sharing these stories you're hearing today. If this horror, aggression, and violence at the hands of the federal government is happening here today, it can happen anywhere else tomorrow. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Genesis Ozuna. I am writing this letter to support of my mother, Laura Murillo, who is currently detained by ICE. My mother has resided in the United States for over 20 years and is the mother of 2 daughters, both whom are United States citizens. Her absence has completely changed our lives and placed an overwhelming burden on me and my younger sister. My mother has always been the backbone of our family. She is a hard-working woman who has dedicated her life to providing for us, raising us as a single mother through many restless nights of hard work, just to give us everything we need. All she cared about is running her small restaurant business to keep food on our table. She kept our family going, selling food she made herself on the streets of Chicago, often in horrible weather conditions. Now that she has been taken from us, I am left to run everything she left behind by myself. And I take care of all her responsibilities far beyond what I can handle at night. I'm only 19 years old. I'm still a kid who has so much to learn, and yet I feel like in the last 4 weeks I've grown up fast, taking all of my mom's responsibilities as fast as she was taken away from us. I don't know what to do in this moment. I do feel alone without her, and it's really affecting my overall mental and physical health. Not to mention my education. My sister has special needs requiring a lot of attention and care for her own needs. I get home from one of my mom's shifts, and I still need to find a way to put food on the table for my little sister and me. I have to seek more affordable meals because I don't have enough money to pay the bills that are already piling up. I can't go and run her shifts and do what she did while working and still meeting my full potential because I have school. I have to miss classes to provide for my little sister, and I might not go to classes, but I have to make sure she does. I am now the sole caretaker of my younger sister who has a disability. She is 16 years old, but developmentally she is so much younger than that. She doesn't understand why her mother is gone or where she is and why she can't see us. She can't mentally focus because of all the worries. All she worries about is when will I see my mom again. She cries when we get back home, and my mother is not there to give her the full attention she is used to having. And every time my sister realizes that our mother is gone, it's like she is reliving the trauma from her absence. It breaks my heart because I simply can't give my sister what my mom gives her. We all only have one mother, and my sister badly needs her mom back at home with us. She cries herself asleep at night since she has been gone. She lost her appetite and she is struggling to get up and eat. Get up or shower. I'm really worried for her mental and physical health, for her own ability to concentrate in school. What will happen to her if the situation goes on for too much longer, or if I need to take care of her full time? I am currently a college student studying radiography, a program that requires long hours of focus, dedication in studying, and demanding classes. Balancing my education with the sudden responsibility of managing my mom's absence, caring for my sister and her special needs, and maintaining our household feels overwhelming and nearly impossible. My education, which I have worked so hard on to achieve to get to this point, is now at risk because of these responsibilities that have fallen on top of me. I want to have a bright future, but right now it's looking impossible. My sister needs stability, guidance, and the daily loving care that my mother has always provided, and I do too. She is our source of love, patience, kindness, and support, and now I feel like I don't have anyone to confide in or turn to or rely on, and the world feels so much more difficult, colder, and a lonelier place without her. I am doing everything I can to step into my mother's shoes, but the truth is I cannot replace her. The emotional toll of being without our mother has been devastating, not only for me, but especially for my sister, who does not fully understand why my mother is not here. I ask with all my heart to please take into consideration the pain, hardship, and struggles that our family is enduring without my mother. We need her home with us. My mother is not only our provider, she is our comfort, our strength, and our only parent. Her absence is tearing our family apart. And I am pleading for mercy and compassion so that we have her back with us. Thank you for taking the time to hear us out and for considering the deep impact my mother has made to our family.
Thank you, Genesis.
While we are sitting here, masked men who are equipped for war are terrorizing communities in Chicago. They are kidnapping Americans without regard of their citizenship status and with utter contempt for due process. They are deploying chemical weapons on public streets, deliberately violating clear legal boundaries. I believe this is only the beginning. We are witnessing the Trump administration testing what they can get away with as they prepare for a broader consolidation of power which cannot be removed with free and fair elections. The temporary restraining order issued by Judge Sarah Ellis should be improving the conditions of those exercising their First Amendment rights in Chicago. But Bovino and his henchmen are showing mocking contempt for the rule of law. Instead of enforcing the law, state authorities have applied their efforts to replace the vicious escalations of ICE at Broadview with the oafish brutality of Illinois State Police. Peaceful protesters continue to be clubbed, beaten, and dragged out of designated free speech zones to be arrested on ludicrous charges. Meanwhile, we are witnessing ICE operating behind the shield of ISP enjoying even more flexibility and efficiency than they had before. They break the TRO on a regular basis, free of concern that any other law enforcement agency might actually enforce the law and hold them to account. It feels like a very low bar to ask the Democratic Party to simply not be actively complicit in ICE's activities. The Illinois State Police must be removed from Broadview and all charges against protesters dropped immediately. Moreover, when ICE and CBP are violating international law, U.S. law, and their own policy manuals all at once, an impressive triple threat, they must be held to account. When rogue police break the law, they are arrested. Instead of activating ISP to attack protesters, Pritzker and Attorney General Raoul can and should use the state police to rein in and arrest ICE officers who break the law. When an agent conceals his identity as a matter of routine, he is breaking the law. When he assaults someone without cause or provocation, he is breaking the law. When they routinely abduct people by force without due process and explicitly on the basis of racial profiling, they must be stopped. There's a saying from the scriptures of the Old Testament, which often comes to mind for me these days. Where there is no vision, the people perish. If you do not have vision, then look to those who do. This country is full of people who have been striving for generations, full of faith and against all odds, for the realization of a society which is truly democratic and free. Look to those who put their bodies on the line week after week to fight for the freedom of our neighbors. Look to the teachers, abuelas, social workers, care providers, clergy, who are facing down a menacing and anonymous secret police force with nothing more than prayers and songs of liberation, $40 respirators, and bicycle helmets bought on credit. There is a new democratic movement in this nation. It is pluralistic and it is intergenerational. It is spiritually rooted and uncompromising in solidarity. It is time for the Democratic Party to decide if it will be the party of the people, the party of liberation and of justice. The old American dream of a truly liberated society built on a foundation of justice and reconciliation, equity and accountability is still a living dream. If the inheritors of those heirloom seeds are not yet holding office hours in the halls of Congress, then it is time for our esteemed elected representatives to return to the streets where the dream of democracy first took root. Thank you.
Ranking Member Joe Paul, members of the committee, and invited guests, thank you for the opportunity to speak today on behalf of Chicago's working people. My name is Bob Reiter, and I serve as president of the Chicago Federation of Labor, representing nearly 300 affiliate unions who in turn represent 500,000 working women and men in Chicago and Cook County. I also want to add that I am a proud board member of the Illinois Coalition of Immigrant and Refugee Rights, and I'm proud to sit up here on this panel with my brother, Lawrence Benito. I want to begin by saying plainly, the recent surge in immigration and customs enforcement activities across the Chicago area has created fear, disruption, and chaos. These actions have undermined workplace safety, reduced productivity, and destabilized local economies that depend on trust, cooperation, and stability among workers and employers alike. When federal enforcement operations unjustly target entire groups of people, the chilling effect ripples across every job site, every neighborhood, and every household, far beyond just immigrant communities. Working parents are afraid to go to work for fear of being unjustly apprehended. Rideshare drivers are being targeted as they pick up passengers from our airports. Social workers are trying to support children whose family members have been detained and deported. ICE enforcement operations, especially those conducted without judicial warrants, do not preserve order. They disrupt it. The labor movement fights for the stability working families need to thrive, the stability provided by fair pay, safe conditions, and dignity on the job. But when fear drives people into the shadows, wages are suppressed, exploitation increases, and unscrupulous employers gain an advantage. The economic price of this chaos is immeasurable. All sectors of the economy have been hit, but the effect is especially notable in construction, hospitality, healthcare, and logistics, which have experienced slowdowns during this period of heightened enforcement in an incredible way. And you know what? I'm gonna break from these comments for a second that I have prepared. Let's remember something. Donald Trump built his entire fortune on the backs of immigrant workers, on the backs of working class people. And he's not just targeting the workers. He's targeting the business owners too. The ICE agents are indiscriminately pulling people over in their cars and asking for their passports. And when they show a driver's license, they're throwing it back in their face and saying this is fake. And when a citizen, when a U.S. citizen establishes that they are a citizen, they're yelling racial epithets at them and leaving. And that's after detaining, humiliating, and disregarding people of their humanity, regardless of citizenship status. If they're treating U.S. citizens like this, imagine how they're treating immigrants, people who came to this country looking to support their families, workers who support the economy. And I'm going to tell you, what we call someone like this on the southwest side of the city, we call him a punk. And not the cool kind of punk that's going to a club show and experiencing our vibrant music scene. Straight up, Donald Trump is a straight up punk, and Chicago is a beautiful city. Chicago is one of the most beautiful cities in America. It's the hometown of the American labor movement. And Chicago is not going to stand for the disruption and chaos that Donald Trump's agenda is visiting upon this city. So I ask you this. If members of this committee can stand up to Donald Trump, tell Mike Johnson to seat the newest member of Congress from Arizona and release the Epstein files. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you to the Illinois delegation for putting this together. Thank you, Rep. Jayapal, and especially to my sister in the struggle, Representative Delia Ramirez. My name is Juliet de Jesus Alejandre. I am a Latina born and raised in Chicago. There's over 1 million of us in the Chicagoland area. Some of us have gotten here yesterday, and some of us have been here for generations, and all of us belong here. Palenque LSNA is a 63-year-old community organization that builds power with immigrant Black and brown mothers and youth on the northwest side of Chicago. We are proud members of ICER and the Access to Justice Network. Really plainly, my people are being hunted down in Chicago by ICE and CPB and other agencies. Everyday community members, also known as rapid responders, are now the last line of defense against unbridled violent kidnappings of both our beloved immigrant family and neighbor, and also US-born Black and brown Chicagoans. The feds accuse rapid responders of impeding justice, impeding arrests. But what they mean is that they want us to be quiet as they fill our streets with terror. Rapid responders are reminding them and our community members of our constitutional rights to assemble, to due process against unlawful detention and searches. Because of the work of everyday Chicagoans who take out our phones to record, we are able to win court cases, reaffirming that the violent and scary ones are the federal agents. We need all levels of government to enforce our wins. All rapid responders knew how risky this work was becoming on September 18th, when a video went viral that was recorded by 2 rapid responders showing aggressive ICE agents threatening to arrest them for filming them as they staged across the street from our local high school. Since then, the violence against all Chicagoans has escalated, and almost every day, rapid responders face violent arrest by ICE and CPB, get guns drawn on them, and tear gas thrown at our community members. Rapid responders are school social workers, mothers and caregivers, church members, artists, elders, who now find ourselves responsible for alerting and verifying our neighbors when masked men with chemical weapons and big guns drive recklessly into our streets, lined with bungalows, 2 flats, and apartment buildings filled with multi-generational families to cause absolute terror. Our only weapons are whistles we wear around our necks, our phone cameras, and the power of love, and the belief that we cannot allow our city to be taken over. On a warm Friday morning, we received multiple text messages about a multi-vehicle collision caused by ICE chasing a father in a work truck. While a few blocks away, tear gas canisters were being unleashed along Armitage Avenue and Central Park, steps away from Funston Elementary School and Rico Fresh grocery store. After ICE agents became frustrated at community members who watched in horror as they harassed shoppers. The gases contain heavy metals that cause lasting damage to lungs. There was a 2-year-old walking with their parents at that moment and hundreds of elementary school children across the street. In that same moment, within half an hour of that situation, federal agents threw more tear gas outside of Humboldt Park Health, where Alderperson Jesse Fuentes asked with so much grace and clarity to see the signed judicial warrant for the injured patient whose medical rights were being violated by still 2 unidentified agents, who then violently detained our alderwoman, a US-born Latina and elected official. This is it. Sound all the alarms. Do not let them break Chicago, because we will not let them. Tell your colleagues in DC that everyday Chicagoans wake up in the morning and pray for the strength to be vigilant enough to protect our people. Who do we call when federal authorities break down doors in the early morning before school starts and takes a father, leaving behind a mother to take care of 2 toddlers with disabilities and a teenager? Well, in Chicago, we've learned we had to call each other up. We keep us safe. ICE and Custom Border Patrol may have $170 billion at their disposal to be domestic terrorists, but rapid responders have connection, commitment, and courage to be a force of order, care, and documentation of human rights violations when all other systems are failing us. We are asking you to match the courage we are seeing on the streets of Chicago before we lose everything. Thank you.
All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ani Wamani. I live on the southwest side of Chicago and work in Brighton Park as the Immigration Defense Coordinator at the Brighton Park Neighborhood Council, an organization based in Illinois' 4th District. Thank you all for having us here today and listening to us. For weeks, my home, the southwest side, has been the center of immigration enforcement actions at the hands of ICE and Customs and Border Protection under the guise of safety. For weeks, my neighbors have experienced indescribable fear just for existing. They are scared to take their children to school, to watch a soccer game at a local park, pick up medicine for their loved ones, or go on a grocery trip. We have consistently heard the lies and false narratives the Trump regime has spread about Chicago just to justify their power grab as they send masked, armed federal agents into local communities. The presence of ICE, DHS, and CBP as part of Operation Midway Blitz and Operation at Large have wreaked havoc on our neighbors. The Southwest Rapid Response works as a collective of community leaders to respond to sightings of ICE in the neighborhood, document detainments, and follow up with families whose loved one was abducted. On September 8th, one of the first day of Operation Midway Blitz, 3 members of our community were ripped away from their families within the span of an hour, including a beloved flower vendor. In the time since, we have documented countless people who have been indiscriminately detained. A dad walking to Walgreens for a prescription for his son after a dental surgery. A young man on his bike and another picked up outside the train station. Bystanders who are getting snatched in a matter of seconds in front of our own eyes just because of how they look. A teenager and her mom were kidnapped on the way to a local grocery store in the Southwest. This was a decision that they made out of necessity because there was no more food left at home. A raid on Swaparama, an open-air flea market that's long served as a home to street vendors. Children are walking alone to school, and at times, we've seen them doing grocery shopping with a paper list and money in hands. As Brighton Park Neighborhood Council, we have provided urgent support to 26 families who have a loved one detained through case management, providing gift cards to meet needs, including covering the cost of phone calls and commissary in detention centers, accompanying students to schools, building their own walking buses, and directly delivering groceries to people's homes. Additionally, our organization has organized a food drive, providing groceries to approximately 100 families who have not been able to leave their homes out of fear. BPNC has pivoted our work to ensure that families know they are not alone. From transitioning appointments remotely to assisting with temporary guardianship letters, court accompaniment, housing assistance, we know the need for support is vast as families navigate mountains of uncertainty. Right now, all eyes need to bear witness to the injustice that's really happening in Chicago. With 2 operations on the ground, the effects are chilling. ICE and CBP are operating without a hint of accountability or transparency for their actions. Just yesterday in La Villita, they blatantly violated a court order against the use of chemical weapons in crowds. Almost a month ago, agents shot and killed Silverio Villegas Gonzalez. Shortly after, agents caused a multi-vehicle car accident which resulted in them shooting a woman 5 times. This led to a full-scale occupation of Brighton Park with tear gas thrown down streets, leaving families struggling to breathe, guns aimed at crowds, and an armored tank taking over the street. An image I never thought I would see just blocks away from where I take my kids to school. What's happening in Chicago right now is an attempt to set the stage to weaponize this regime against our city and state. Where is the accountability? Where is the transparency? The Trump regime is actively using Chicago as a show for entertainment while families are being torn apart. We are witnessing the invasion of our communities by federal law enforcement who refuse to identify themselves and loved ones be disappeared in the blink of an eye. As an organization, as rapid response teams, as neighbors, we refuse to allow our families to be taken quietly. Thank you.
Morning. Thank you, Member Jayapal, for having us here today. My name is Kevin Fee. I am a Chicagoan. I'm a father of 4, and I am the legal director at the ACLU of Illinois. And I want to thank you for holding this shadow hearing today. It strikes me that it's called a shadow hearing. What it's really doing is bringing sunlight, and I think we all know that sunlight is the best disinfectant now and always will be. But especially so now, when the entire notion of a shared truth is under attack. It's important when we have an administration whose abusive policies are based on a series of falsehoods that are so brazen that sometimes they go unchallenged, and they go unchallenged for so long that they get forgotten. And there's a real danger in that. There's this pattern I've observed in public rollout of a new abusive Trump administration policy. A member of the press will repeat some outrageous falsehood that justified the policy. Right. And then they'll say, moving beyond the bluster, let's talk about the broader context. Let's pause a beat there. Let's not move beyond the bluster, and let's not call it bluster, because it's more than that. Let's call it what it is, which is a falsehood. And when it's a falsehood that forms the basis of an entire change in administration policy, it's important to call it that. And it's important to talk about it, to pause on it, and to keep talking about it. And so I thank the members for having this hearing for that reason today. I think what's happening here in Chicago is a great example. All of us here at this table have the surreal experience of going about our business every day, walking our dogs, maybe picking up our kids from school, coaching Little League in a city that the administration tells us is on the verge of an open rebellion. Look around you. It's not. I mean, walk outside. It's outrageously false. And yet that is the justification for bringing troops to the streets of an American city. And what's happening with the ICE operations is another great example. We get understandably wrapped up in the horrors of the daily abuses, but pause for a moment. Why are we doing this again? Does anyone even remember? I recall hearing about a supposed migrant crime wave. Well, that doesn't exist. Study after study shows that immigrants commit crimes in smaller numbers than U.S. citizens and native-born Americans. I recall hearing about removing the worst of the worst, but the fact is the vast majority of people that they're detaining do not have criminal records and are ordinary working people. And I recall hearing about the need for people to follow the law. Well, they're arresting people when they show up to courthouses. People trying to take part in our legal process, take part in asylum proceedings that are sometimes dismissed for the very purpose of these people being detained. So why are we doing this again? And I have to say, one very grounding thing about being a litigator in these times is that we get to appear in courtrooms. And courtrooms are places where the why matters, and they're places where you can't just move past the bluster. If you say something, you have to put forth your proof. You have to put forward evidence to prove that it's true. And time after time, federal judges in this city and across the country are lining up the actual facts of what's going on in the ground and examining the claims of the Trump administration against those facts and finding those claims wanting. It's a common thread that runs through the opinions that have come out of federal courtrooms in Chicago these past few weeks. You can say there's a rebellion or a danger of rebellion and that it's impeding law enforcement, but there are videos and witnesses, and when they are lined up and the court looks at them, they determine that those claims are just not true. Likewise, you can say that clergy and protesters and members of the press who are out there, bravely exercising their First Amendment rights are a violent mob that need to be controlled by near lethal munitions. But then you have to, in court, look at the video of Reverend Black being shot in the face with a pepper ball while he's peacefully praying and ministering to the people. It doesn't line up. So the truth is out there for those who care to look. Courts across the country have been looking at them and weighing them and finding the Trump administration's claims wanting.
Mr. Fee, if you could just wrap up.
And I thank the members for shining a light on the stories of these brave people here today and for bringing sunshine to this process. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. I know this is hard to even compress what we have to say because there's so much, and I deeply appreciate all the personal stories and the work that all of you are doing. We're now going to proceed under the 5-minute rule for questions, and I think we're going to have somebody sit right up here because we don't have a timer like we normally do. So this is Morgan. Thank you, Morgan, for being our human timer and helping us to make sure we stay on time so we can get out to the hearing, to the press conference on time. All right, I'm going to start with mine. Ms. Jesus Alejandre, the Trump administration keeps making these claims that those of you who are doing rapid response work are somehow assaulting ICE or standing in the way of impeding ICE. Can you just set the record straight for us and tell us about what the rapid response networks are doing and the work that you're doing to support communities who are under attack and being terrorized by ICE?
Rapid responders are regular people. Like, clearly, this is our weapon and this one. Document one. We don't know who's coming into community. They're masked and unmarked cars, often looking like they bought something off of Amazon. Like they bought a uniform off of Amazon. So we don't know. So there's an alert that goes out, right? So you hear people honking horn, and these are just regular Chicagoans, right? Some people have gone through training around what does an ICE agent look like and what does Customs and Border Patrol person look like, right? But often they don't look like any of that, right? And so these are folks who've been trained just to know, and also to know the rights, right? And how to try to stay calm in a situation, to remind everyone, regardless of their immigration status, what are the constitutional rights. And the impeding, right? They will say our presence is impeding, right? Our yelling is
documenting, right?
And
you're
our
documenting so that we
they
have
don't want to
record.
be documented because everything that they're doing is illegal, it's unconstitutional, it's violent, and it's dangerous. And so the mere fact of us just being present on our porches yelling they're saying that that's impeding, and it's not. We have the right to do all of those things, and our footage is being used in court.
Yeah.
Right. And they obviously don't want that. However, again, what we need is enforcement of those court rulings as well in our community.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate, Mr. Fee, you're saying that we're, doing a shadow hearing, but we're bringing light to this because I think that documentation is a critical piece of the court records. ProPublica recently published this shocking investigation that revealed that ICE and the federal agents that work with them have detained at least 170 American citizens during their immigration enforcement actions. They accuse many of the citizens of, quote, obstructing or interfering with enforcement, even of assault, and they only had those charges then fall apart under any kind of scrutiny, going past the bluster, as you said. Here in Chicago, we know that there have been multiple U.S. citizens who were reportedly detained during an immigration raid. Can you just talk a little bit about how the aggressive tactics of the administration are violating the rights of everybody? And again, a reminder that due process rights accrue to everybody, but can you just talk about that for anyone who might be watching the live stream and wondering, how does this affect me? I'm not an immigrant. I'm not, whatever label they might want to attach to that.
Absolutely. And you only have to look at two of the many pretty well-publicized incidents over the last few weeks of very broad-based raids in Chicago to see that many U.S. citizens, for example, are swept up in these raids. There was a military-style attack on a South Shore apartment building, a 130-unit building that you mentioned, Member Jayapal, in your opening remarks, where they simply rounded people up, according to reports, and asked questions later. Now, law enforcement is supposed to work the opposite way. It's supposed to be targeted. You're supposed to get a warrant for a particular person who you have reason to believe has committed a crime and go over that person. Go over to find that person pursuant to a warrant. You're not supposed to essentially stage a hostage operation where you round people up and then release the people that you don't want after zip tying them in the back of U-Hauls for a few hours. They were zip tying children at that building. And that's only one example. There was a work crew at a cemetery in Forest Park that was recently gassed. They had their belongings taken from them. One of them had to go to the hospital while still shackled for hours and was released into the street in a hospital gown without his keys, without his wallet, with no way to even get into his own house. And he didn't even know what if anything, he had done wrong. This is a U.S. citizen as well. So this is not affecting some small band of people. And if folks think that they are not at risk, I'm afraid they're sorely mistaken.
Thank you so much. I am now going to, my time has expired, so I'm now going to recognize our members, and we're going to start with my colleague from the state of Illinois who's been such a help in organizing this hearing, Mr. Garcia.
Thank you, Chairwoman Jayapal, for your partnership in convening this hearing and, of course, your relentless protection of immigrants in our country. To all of our colleagues who are here visiting from out of state, welcome to Chicago, Cook County, and Illinois, a city built by those that the powerful tried to keep out. That's why we are who we are. We acknowledge the native inhabitants of this land, and also from its Black Haitian immigrant founder to Europeans escaping famine, to Mexicans and Asians seeking work and safety. Chicago's story is a story of immigrants building a city of hope and of hard work. My father came to the U.S. from Mexico through the Bracero program, and the rest of our family, joined him. Chicago gave us a chance, and I've spent my entire life hoping to give everyone, every other family, a chance as well. I was proud to serve in Mayor Harold Washington's administration when 40 years ago he issued the executive order that made Chicago the first immigrant-friendly, welcoming city in the country in 1985 across the hall. And in this boardroom, we approved the nation's first ICE detainer ordinance that limited our cooperation with ICE, but for judicial warrants. And of course, I continue to fight in Congress today. But right now, my community is under assault by our United States government. My district has become the focal point of that assault. Just 2 days ago, Federal officers raided my community of 57 years, Little Village, and detained U.S. citizens, street vendors, and stormed a laundromat and handcuffed parents in front of their children. And yesterday, they did it again, brutalizing U.S. citizens and other people, flying helicopters menacingly low above our homes and businesses, and we have the video to prove it. None of this is about public safety. It's about inciting violence and chaos to justify Trump's illegal occupation in our communities. And we've seen the consequences. You heard it already. Federal officers killed Silverio Villegas Gonzalez after he dropped his kids off at school. ICE also shot a woman in Brighton Park, as we have heard. They've abducted parents like Abel Orozco, who was detained in a case of mistaken identity and is still trapped in detention for months now. They have shot chemical agents and rubber bullets near schools and senior homes. They've conducted raids near churches and clinics and places that should be sacred. That's why we're conducting oversight and demanding accountability and an end to the lawless federal invasion of Chicago. We applaud Governor Pritzker, Mayor Johnson, County Board President Preckwinkle, and of course, we welcome the comments of Cardinal Cupich that were issued yesterday, standing with immigrant families and children in particular. And we welcome the announcement of an Illinois Accountability Commission that Governor Pritzker made yesterday, chaired by former federal judge Ruben Castillo, the former chief federal judge of the Northern District of Illinois. We've been working closely with the organizations on the ground and advocates on the front lines, including the rapid response networks that are vital to protecting the community. Thank you to all the witnesses. A couple of questions as time is running out. I'd like to begin with Ms. Humani from Brighton Park. Can you very briefly, in perhaps 1 minute, describe how the communities that you work with and represent have come together to stand up to the lawless federal government, and what lessons the rest of the country can learn from us?
Yeah, thank you. So basically, as co-lead of the Southwest Rapid Response Team, we've been able to just analyze community members, like how do they want to get involved, right? So they've been able to support either locally responding and being part of our network, but also they've started to build their own walking buses. We have our promotoras de salud, our health promoters at BPNC. They've been taking money out of their own pockets to start grocery shopping for families. And we've also ourselves have been volunteering from 6 a.m. all the way to 10 p.m., have built a way to warn our neighbors if ICE is in the neighborhood, but also to respond to tips. We've seen a vast majority of people that have never been connected to any community organization come up and show out in recent months since Operation Midway Blitz started, and have been able to we have people that are even using 3D printers, their personal 3D printers, to print whistles. So yes, there's literally people contributing in every way and every effort right now to warn our neighbors and keep each other safe.
Thank you so much, Ms. Humana. My time is up. Just to say, Chicago, Cook County, and Illinois will not bow to intimidation. Thank you. Madam
Thank
Chair?
you so much, Mr. Garcia. Now my honor to recognize Representative Delia Ramirez, also from Illinois, who's been incredibly helpful and serves on the Homeland Security Committee.
Thank you, Congresswoman Jayapal, for convening today's shadow hearing. You've heard from the witnesses today the day-to-day life here, and it's so important that many members of Congress have come to Chicago to really understand the on-the-ground realities of Trump's assault on American cities and to stand in solidarity with us. Thank you. As a member of Homeland Security Committee, I've consistently sought to conduct oversight of DHS for its unlawful, unconstitutional, unaccountable actions in Chicago and across the country. As a Chicago resident myself, I know firsthand the terror DHS and ICE seek to instill in us. Our residents have been surveilled, they have been threatened, they've been tear gassed, they've been hit with pepper balls, they've been shot, they've been subjected to warrantless arrest and precision immobilization, technique maneuvers, and kidnapped and disappeared. The greatest threat to public safety in Chicago is ICE and CBP. I think it's important that we lift up just how out of control and unaccountable DHS is. On Friday, October 3rd, rogue federal agents deployed chemical agents less than 1 block in my neighborhood from Chicago's Funston Elementary School. And while warning that the unleashed terror would have on pedestrians, consumer grocery shopping, and even children playing in the school lot. On October 9th, U.S. District Judge Sarah Ellis ordered federal agents in the Chicago area to wear visible identification and limit the use of anti-riot weapons such as pepper balls and tear gas. Mr. Fee, to your knowledge, are federal agents complying with the judge order, yes or no?
There have been many instances of violations of the order, and the litigation team, of which I'm a part, have been bringing those to the judge's attention in real time.
Thank you, Mr. Fee.
Yes.
Thank you. And despite the court ordering them to stop, as you're saying, federal agents continue to disregard the rule of law. On October 12th, in Albany Park, on a residential block, at least 4 vehicles with federal agents tear gassed residents without warning. The reckless behavior of these agents executing Operation Midway Blitz is well known to all those seeking to protect our neighbors. Ms. De Jesus Alejandre, can you briefly speak to the kind of recklessness and the intimidation that rapid response teams are witnessing on the ground?
Yeah, that one was a couple blocks from my house. I remember with my twins who also have disabilities, like we couldn't leave the house until at least 5 p.m. that day.
Turn your microphone on.
Yeah, sorry, it's on, but I'll get closer. The recklessness we see is that they will just they're ready. You could see them. They come angry. They come ready to confront. They're dangerous, and they want to cause harm. The point is terror, right? The point is to escalate so that they have the excuse and the cover to keep doing whatever they want to do to us.
Thank you. Federal agents are violating our rights. They're threatening our leaders. They're snatching people without warrants based on the color of our skin. 2 examples of their unconscionable behavior. One Sunday, September 29th, Noemi, Jaime, and their 2 children were on a family outing downtown Chicago, just a couple blocks from here. They were profiled, separated, and detained. But we fought back, and with the help of NIJC and advocates, Noemi and the children have returned home. And we continue to fight so that Jaime, the husband, could come home. And last Saturday, Ruben Torres Maldonado was kidnapped at a Home Depot without a warrant while picking up material to finish a job to pay for his daughter's chemotherapy. She has stage 4 cancer. She and her family are my constituents. And if you want to know the depth of the administration's inhumanity and immorality, look no further than to Ruben and Ofelia. We are fighting for Ruben, and hopefully in the next few hours, we will get good news on the case. But listen, we could be demoralized. But action is the antidote to despair. We are fighting, we are resisting, we're protecting each other. I could never be more proud than the community, my district, this city, and those of us that are fighting back. Commissioner Jessica Vasquez, who was here just a moment ago, who serves in this boardroom, had to return back to the community. So did Alderwoman Rosana Rodriguez Sanchez and Rep. Lillian Jimenez to deal with the raids that are happening right now in our community. We will continue to organize because we know that fascism always requires a public enemy, but we will not be broken. We will not bend the knee. We will hold them accountable, and this hearing is one step towards that. Thank you, Congresswoman Jayapal, for your leadership, for your constant leadership, and for the work we will do.
Thank you so much, Representative Ramirez. Next, it's my honor to recognize Representative Robin Kelly, also who has been just an incredible partner on organizing this hearing and providing leadership.
Thank you, Chair Jayapal. Thank you, Congressman Chuy Garcia, Congresswoman Delia Ramirez, and putting this hearing together. It's been an honor to work with you. And thank you to all my colleagues that have flown in from New York to California. I just ask that you please remember the stories that you hear today. And I want to thank the witnesses for all of you coming out. I especially want to thank Genesis. She's my constituent, and it's brave for a 19-year-old to be able to tell her story. The helicopter coming in the dead of night is in my district, the 2nd Congressional District. The car accident was also in my district, and 2 of those people that they picked up worked for Genesis' mother. And so she had 3 employees, and 2 out of the 3 are no longer there. So how does she run the business? How does she and her sister eat? Pastor Black, I understand that the South Shore apartment building is quite close to your church. Can you describe how this raid has affected your community, the people that come to your church, and do they feel more or less safe with all this ICE activity in the area?
Thank you, Representative Kelly. The effect has been horrific. People are afraid to leave their homes. I have congregants who are afraid to come to church. There is nothing that can take away the trauma that has been suffered by those children who were zip-tied naked and put in the back of a U-Haul van. I am beyond horrified by what the federal government is doing in our communities, and I am hopeful about the ways that our community is responding to keep each other safe. So I want to thank those who are on the front lines, and I would be very happy and satisfied if those who are with us today would stay a little bit longer to join a rapid response team this week and experience what they experience daily, or go to Broadview following this hearing and experience what peaceful First Amendment protesters are experiencing on a daily basis as they try to slow down ICE operations.
Mr. Ryder, the Chicago Federation of Labor represents more than 500,000 union members across many industries in Chicago and Cook County. Which sectors have you seen most affected by Trump's administration's mass deportation agenda?
Well, specifically, thank you, Congresswoman Kelly. We've seen issues arise in the hospitality, manufacturing, and building and construction sectors. Nothing, though, is immune from Donald Trump's immigration terror operation, as we've seen workers across all industries, including public safety, be detained under questionable circumstances by ICE and Border Patrol.
Mr. Fee, can you discuss the consent decree regarding immigration enforcement in Chicago? My understanding is that it limits ICE's ability to make arrests without probable cause or without a warrant.
Yes, this is the Castañeda settlement agreement in a consent decree case that National Immigrant Justice Center filed along with Winston and Strawn and the ACLU a few years ago, actually before the Trump administration. It forbids suspicionless traffic stops and warrantless arrests, except in instances where ICE can specifically document that they have reasonable suspicion for probable cause that someone is in the country illegally and a flight risk. And if they do not document those things, the person can be released under the consent decree.
So I'm guessing ICE has been violating this court order, and if you could talk about, if so, how.
They have been, unfortunately, and NIJC has been working tirelessly to keep track of those violations and bring them to the judge's attention. Dozens at a time, unfortunately, so it's something that we have to constantly stay on top of, but it's something that people need to remember, that they do have rights under this consent decree. If they feel it's been violated, they should contact the reporting structure through NIJC, and we will get it before the court just as soon as we can.
I just want to thank all of the witnesses again, thank all of my colleagues for coming in. This is unacceptable, as was said yesterday at the roundtable. This is not normal, and we can't get weary and we can't get lost in the chaos. We have to keep fighting this issue. Thank you, and I yield back.
Thank you so much, Representative Kelly. Now let me recognize Representative Danny Davis, in whose district we sit, and thank you for all of your leadership and your work.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I welcome all of my colleagues to Chicago, city of the big shoulders, city that was founded by an African-American immigrant, John Baptiste Point DuSable, and his Native American wife. Representative J. Paul, I want to commend and thank you, not only for your outstanding leadership on this issue, but on many other issues that affect the American people and the world order. I am pleased to live in the state of Illinois, a state where the governor, the mayor of our largest city, the head of our county government, statewide elected and local officials, but more importantly, the people are all pushing back, saying that we are unified around the concept that immigrants have rights, rights that must be respected, rights that must be protected, and with humanity. We are a unified state and believe that it is our duty and responsibility to not only keep the unity going, but to protect all of the people in it. Mr. Ryder, Bob, the Trump administration claims that its aggressive immigration enforcement activities are necessary to protect American jobs and protect American workers. Could you describe how indiscriminate immigration raids and mass deportation ultimately harms and not helps American workers?
But in couching his terror immigration operations, Donald Trump has falsely implicated American jobs. As anyone who's ever looked at job and economic data, our immigrant workforce, both documented and undocumented, has built the American economy. And by disrupting our community's workforce, we have seen problems with being able to deliver goods to market, to be able to complete various construction projects, supply chain issues. But that just underscores the bigger impact that it has on the community, where immigrants, documented or otherwise, are consumers, contribute to our tax system, and help lift up our community every day. So it's just another false statement by this president.
And just quickly, why is organized labor so engaged in this issue?
Well, if you look at the Chicago labor movement, we are a majority minority labor movement here in Chicago and Cook County. The immigrant community here, whether you go back to the Irish and Italian communities, my great grandfather, who was a Croatian immigrant, to our Latino and Venezuelan immigrants, this city moves every day because of that immigrant workforce.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chairman, for your outstanding leadership, and I yield back.
Thank you so much, Representative Davis. It's now a great honor to have with us the chair of the House Democratic Caucus, Representative Pete Aguilar from California.
Thank you so much, Ranking Member, soon-to-be Chair Jayapal, our Illinois delegation as well, and those representatives from Chicago who are hosting us. Democrats are laser-focused on ensuring Americans in communities across this country feel safe and secure. There's no doubt these immigration enforcement actions have made our communities less safe. Instead of targeting individuals with violent criminal convictions, the Trump administration is choosing to disappear people off the streets and zip-tie children together in the middle of the night. Instead of working with Democrats on real solutions to keep communities safe and with targeted immigration enforcement, Donald Trump and his Republican henchmen are making law enforcement jobs harder with this illegal occupation. Instead of securing more funding for police officers, Republicans put forward a budget that cuts their resources. And instead of locking up violent criminals, in one of his first acts as president, Donald Trump released 1,500 convicted January 6th felons back into American communities. Mr. Fee, it appears that the Department of Homeland Security's position in the past has been that these actions are necessary to identify and target the most violent criminals, as you've talked about in your testimony. Are you able to share how many individuals arrested actually have violent criminal convictions, or how many individuals arrested were done so with active warrants?
It's a relatively small percentage. The vast majority, as I understand, there are different studies, but well over 60%, if not more, have no criminal histories at all, and an even smaller percentage actually have violent criminal histories. The vast majority of people being swept up in this deportation program are ordinary law-abiding citizens contributing to their communities.
And what about Ranking Member Jayapal talked about this as well. What about U.S. citizens who have been impacted by the Trump administration's immigration enforcement actions, such as facing arrest or deportation?
It's been a near constant feature of this deportation campaign here in Chicago and elsewhere that people are detained when they are clearly citizens, when they are stating on video that they are citizens, when they're showing identification that they're citizens. They are nonetheless detained, sometimes for an extended period of time, humiliated and released without apology.
Thank you, Mr. Fee. Mr. Benito, the Trump administration is actively ignoring ICE's sensitive locations policy, which previously prohibited ICE from conducting immigration enforcement at places like schools, hospitals, and courthouses. I'd like you to answer this question, and then maybe Ms. De Jesus Alejandre as well. How have ICE's enforcement actions at schools impacted communities, including children who are U.S. citizens, and how have these enforcement actions deterred individuals from seeking care at hospitals or domestic violence shelters?
Thank you for the question, Representative. Obviously, performing regular acts, dropping their kids off at school, going to work, going to a grocery store have become a rather dangerous activity for parents. And so there is a lot of fear. You see parents deciding to keep their children home from going to school as a result, or having to rely on neighbors or rapid response teams to help with basic things like going to the grocery store or running errands. So it does have a chilling effect. Sensitive locations like the court system. So even when people want to follow the law, they're afraid to do so because they're not sure if they're going to be afforded due process, even if they show up, have the documents to prove that they are there rightfully, and then be taken away. And so we are taking additional measures at the state level to try to prevent ICE from being in courthouses, in hospitals, including in our Safe Schools legislation to include early childhood centers, college, universities, because we just don't trust that the federal government is operating in the best interests of communities and their safety.
Thank you, Mr. Benito. Ms. De Jesus Alejandre, from the community aspect.
Yeah, what we've seen, there's one local elementary school where 65 families have signed up their children to get picked up and dropped off every day by community members. And the amount of trust you need to have in that moment is I can't even imagine leaving your 7-year-old to go with somebody that you're hoping will come back, right? And thankfully, it's all been safe, but that is tremendous. My mother is a community nurse in Humboldt Park on the northwest side, and her 46-year-old patient died, an undocumented mother, because she was too afraid to come to her follow-up appointments, and when her breathing became very, very labored, she told my mom that she was going to leave to the emergency room, but she didn't because she was too afraid, and she died at home. And so that is real, that fear.
Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Aguilar. Now, it's also a great honor to have with us the chair of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, Representative Adriano Espaillat from New York.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Paul, and my colleagues that are here visiting Chicago, as well as the witnesses that gave their compelling testimony. Masked agents anonymous masked agents. We don't know their first names or their last names or their shield number. They come knocking on your door or they come stopping you in the street. The violation of sensitive locations, houses of worship, are now subject to ICE raids. Little access to detention center, although it is guaranteed to members of Congress by the law. The use of tear gas and other toxic chemicals, including at some of our members of Congress while visiting detention center. Senator Alex Padilla, a sitting senator of the state of California, thrown up against the wall and on the floor, like many other Americans are being subject to as well, by out-of-control ICE agents. The detention of green card holders, of TPS recipients, and even U.S. citizens. The deployment of the National Guard on cities that have not asked for it to come in. And of course, the weaponization, the political weaponization of the Justice Department. This is the Trump dictatorship. Mm-hmm. It is not tomorrow. It is not next week or next year. It is now. These are the characteristics of a dictatorship. And so we have to come together, as we're doing today, across the country to preserve our democracy. And I want to thank the chair for hosting us here, Chair Jayapal, and the members of Congress from the Illinois delegation, particularly from Chicago. I have a question for the pastor. You joined a lawsuit against the Trump administration over how it treated protesters and journalists. The case led Judge Sarah Ellis to block federal agents from using tear gas and other weapons on peaceful protesters and to require body cameras and visible IDs for immigrant agents. Have you seen any noticeable change in these practices?
Thank you for that question. The temporary restraining order should have created a difference, and it could have, but we have not seen a visible reduction in the brutal tactics, the use of chemical weapons by ICE against civilians. I think the point that you make, Representative, cannot be emphasized enough. We do not know who these people are. Anyone with access to an Army surplus store could impersonate a federal agent and plausibly receive the protection of the federal government at this time. We need accountability. I've said in multiple interviews that as a Christian minister and a beneficiary of the grace of God, I forgive these ICE agents. But as an American citizen, I need to see them held to account. I need to see justice. And I look forward to this body bringing justice where it is needed.
Thank you for your answer. Madam Chair, as you know, I came to the United States as a young boy from the Dominican Republic at the age of 9 with a visitor's visa and luggage full of dreams. And I overstayed my visa, had no papers, and now I'm a member of the U.S. Congress. That is the promise of America. We must all fight to keep that promise alive. And the city of Chicago has played a prominent role in making sure that the hope and dreams of people from all over the world are kept alive. So I thank you, Madam Chair, and all my colleagues for coming to Chicago. We have to take this to other places across the country. Yes, this week, Canal Street was raided for the first time in New York City. And I believe that they're coming to all of our cities, and we must be prepared to save our nation.
Thank you so much, Representative Espaillat, and also for just reminding us of your personal story, and so many of us have those. I think that is the promise of America. Let me now recognize my good friend from the state of Illinois, Representative Jan Schakowsky.
Thank you so much. Pramila, and everyone who is here. But I want to offer a somewhat different feeling. I am so proud of the people of the state of Illinois and all across the country who are fighting back. And I have to think that this is coming through. The people are not going to sit around and just let Trump and his people go after us. There is horrible, unspeakable things that are happening to families. But it hasn't stopped people coming out and fighting and continuing the struggle, because I do believe that we are going to make progress here. More people now believe that what Trump is doing to people, the kinds of things that are happening, are wrong. The majority of people think it's wrong. And it's hard to say that we should encourage people to put their lives on the line. But I do think that there is a step up. And I just want to thank the people here today who have, of all different sorts, who have fought and fought and fought. And I'm just wondering if there is something positive about what we are doing right now, what so many people are doing. It's horrible, it's hideous, it's wrong, but we are calling it out. And I just wonder if we can take some pride in progress and keeping it up and fighting and fighting and fighting. So Pramila and others, I wonder, can we only focus? Of course we focus on the negative and the things that are done, and I think in some ways that Chicago has really gotten under the skin of Trump. But I also want to thank all the people who in this town and all across the country who have made a decision to fight back. It matters, don't you think? I'm wondering if you would agree.
Yes. Sorry, I didn't know if that question was directed at one of the witnesses. I mean, look, I'm an organizer, okay, and I have spent 20 years before coming to Congress as an organizer, and I think the work that we have heard about today, that we heard about yesterday at our roundtable, the work that we're going to hear about when we do the roundtables that are happening after this, with people, the community that is coming together, the rapid response networks that are working in coordination to show what it looks like to have a society that welcomes all of us, to show what it looks like to ensure that we are protecting everybody's rights and that any erosion of rights for any group of people affects all of us. I think that is really what we're doing. Mr. Ryder, it looks like you have a response there.
Congresswoman Schakowsky, I have a brief answer to your question. I got a note from a neighbor in my community about a sighting of ICE agents. Middle-aged woman, white, grew up downstate, and got activated during the Trump administration. Chicago fights. Chicago fights. It's not just one person. We fight from every community that unites against people that come and try to disrupt our community. Donald Trump's immigration agenda, according to polling that we've done in coalition with some of our partners, this is the most unpopular political move an elected official can have done in Chicago. And guess what? He did it, and we are outraged. We are taking that outrage to protect our community, and it runs across racial, ethnic, age, and wage gap. We are done and sick of it.
That's right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Representative Schakowsky. Let me now recognize Representative Bill Foster, also from the great state of Illinois.
Thank you, Ranking Member Jayapal, and thank you to our witnesses and my colleagues from around the country for being here today. What we have seen here in Illinois, and not just, I believe it's on, that's what it, okay. Yeah, so what we've seen here in Illinois, and not just in Chicago, but in the suburban communities that I represent, like Aurora, the second largest city in Illinois, or in Woodridge, or Bolingbrook, or Belvedere, has been nothing short of an assault on our state's autonomy and on our families' safety and peace of mind. There are times when federal intervention can be welcomed and effective. 25 years ago, Aurora had a real problem with gang violence, with 27 murders in a typical year. So we called in the FBI Anti-Gang Unit and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms to help out the Kane County Sheriff and the Aurora Police. And we invested in programs like after-school programs to get at the root causes. And in that decade of intervention, the murder rate ratcheted down from 27 a year until in 2012 we went an entire year with 0 murders of any kind in Aurora. But that's not what we're seeing here. What we're seeing here is an intervention that was not invited and is not welcomed. We've seen groups of masked unidentified agents grabbing people off the streets, putting them into unmarked cars and speeding away. This is not law and order. It's more like the opening scene of some dystopian novel. As Pastor Black pointed out, what's to stop a criminal, for example, from claiming to be ICE and just kidnapping their target? How is someone who's taken in one of these raids to know if they're actually face-to-face with legitimate law enforcement or some criminal or vigilante group, or if they should legally fight back? So this is just one of the blatant and grotesque problems with the Trump administration's immigration enforcement strategy. And in the end, it is clear that their goal is not truly to enforce the law. It is to terrorize hardworking Latino families and other immigrant communities. Mr. Ryder, President Trump claims to be a champion for small businesses and family farms, and then he turns around and kidnaps their employees and terrorizes their customers with his immigration tactics. Reports have found major drops in foot traffic at businesses in Latino neighborhoods, which I guess isn't a surprise. But this is not just, many problems, many businesses throughout the far suburbs I represent are struggling and they're threatened with having to close. Can you say a little bit more about how Trump's immigration raids are affecting small businesses throughout Illinois' economy?
Here's a real front and center one. If you're a Latino business owner who needs to run to Home Depot to pick something up, or one of your employees does, they essentially need to wear a suit and tie and hope that they're still not racially profiled. That's where we're at. That's where we're at. When you show up in a restaurant or the construction company that you've hired to do a project, their employees can't come to work because they're afraid, regardless of their citizenship status, because they're afraid of being detained and not being able to pick their kids up from school. That's where we're at with this. It's disrupting our economy at every level.
Thank you. Mr. Fee, as a scientist, I really appreciate your emphasis on facts and truth as an essential first line of defense against the Trump administration's assault on the rule of law. But we have seen numerous reports of ICE detaining American citizens, including a recent ProPublica investigation that found 170 such cases. In many of these, the citizens were even prohibited from calling a lawyer. Could you explain what constraints ICE has with respect to U.S. citizens and what the legal recourse that U.S. citizens have?
I think it's really important that folks not be intimidated by the lawless appearance of ICE's deportation raids into believing that we no longer are in a nation of laws, because we are. And ICE is bound by the Constitution. It's bound by federal statutes, just like any other federal law enforcement. And that means that in order to gain access to a private place, for example, ICE needs a judicial warrant, not an administrative warrant, but a judicial warrant. They need to comply with the Castellanova settlement. Folks, people are often, understandably frustrated by the fact that ICE so often flouts these rules, but people still have rights and have the ability to petition a court for redress if those rights are violated civilly. In a criminal case, if ICE violates a warrant, you can have recourse for that. You can have evidence suppressed. The Constitution still very much applies, even though it at times feels like it doesn't.
My time is up, and yield back.
Thank you so much, Representative Foster. Now let me recognize Representative Mike Quigley, also from the state of Illinois.
Thank you so much, Chair. The setting seems familiar to me, and for my friends Danny and Chewy, we recognize the county board as the cradle of Congress. But the president's talked about going after the worst of the worst, but what I witnessed, the ultimate victims here have almost always been kids. And for that, I would say the president is the worst of the worst. From my own experience, yesterday I walked with an 8-year-old girl from a shelter to her school, her second day at the school. And she's living in a shelter, and she has to have somebody white walk her to school. And through my staffer, Victoria, who was walking with me, she was communicating in Spanish how happy she was, how much she liked her new school and her new teachers, and what kinds of dogs she'd like to get. It's tough. On Monday, I had a Know Your Rights event at Lane Tech, and a young lady there, 16 years old, in a wheelchair, a cancer patient, whose father was picked up last Saturday because he was working extra hours to pay her medical bills. At Bethany House, a women's shelter, we were told that the women are afraid to go out and drop their kids off at daycare because ICE was right there, and they wanted to drop their kids off at daycare so they could go to work, so they could eventually move out of the shelter and have their own home and get GED and so forth and so on. At our domestic violence courthouse, we heard from advocates that when ICE came, women who were trying to get orders of protection, protect themselves and their kids, fled and aren't coming back because of ICE's presence there. So the story is universal. Again, when we're in Little Village and we hear that our business is down 50%, that's all food that puts, that's all money that puts food on the table for kids. So kids are the victims. So from whom would like to address this most? When a parent's detained by ICE, could give us a deeper dive in your experience, what's happening to those kids, particularly where the parent was the sole provider and caregiver?
BPNC, thank you for the question. I think that we've had a lot of cases like that. We recently had a case of a young person at one of our local community schools who became solely responsible of his 2 younger siblings. We actually just dropped off groceries in the beginning of this week. They didn't have as much as toilet paper. And the one thing that the youngest one, the 6-year-old, my son's about to turn 6, so it really hurt me. All that she wanted was just a costume for Halloween and to see her mom. So this is what happens. Young people have to become adults in a matter of hours and figure out how to pay for rent, how to be that sustainability that the sole provider was providing.
Thank you. Look, and the list goes on, and the tragedies go on. When we go to food banks, and hear that people are afraid to go to the food banks and they're actually forced to have drive-thrus and have deliveries. And I see the courage of people who are still going out there so they can put food on the table or to volunteer to help. I think it gives us all strength. We were at Pastor Harris's Bronzeville shelter, which was raided about 2 weeks ago. We hear of people risking living on the streets, many of them with kids, because they know that's where the raid took place. And they describe the circumstances of the raid, which can only be put into larger terms as sort of a reign of terror, right? Who imagine we live in a country where the President of the United States would say that our cities should be used as training grounds for the military to go after the enemy within. Unfortunately, the enemy within that he's talking about are all little kids. And, I think it should motivate us all to continue this effort. And I appreciate everyone up there for what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Quigley. Let me now go to another Illinois member, Representative Raja Krishnamurthy.
Thank you, Chairwoman Jayapal. And I should just begin by saying thank you to all the witnesses. I'm an immigrant myself. I'm a naturalized citizen, and like with many of you, as I was growing up, people said I didn't belong. But the promise of America says you do belong and I belong. And to anybody who's watching out there and who's watching this federal government say to you effectively you don't belong, don't believe them. And we are here to fight to make sure that America lives up to its promise and you can live your life to its fullest. Mr. Benito, in my district, Evelyn, an 18-year-old U.S. citizen, was dragged out of a car in the village of Hoffman Estates and tackled by ICE agents because she was documenting ICE's actions. A video shows her yelling, quote, "I'm not resisting," as an officer slams her down and puts his knee on her neck. One of the most graphic scenes I've seen. Mr. Benito, this kind of harsh treatment of young people, especially non-white residents, has been common in ICE's treatment of local residents, correct?
That's correct.
And DHS tried to cover up this video, falsely claiming that it was not even ICE. That was false, correct, Mr. Benito?
That's correct.
Let's be clear. When ICE and DHS target citizens and silence witnesses, it betrays the trust they're meant to protect. No agency is above the law, and we here are going to hold them accountable. Pastor Black, you recently protested outside the Broadview ICE detention facility. Instead of respecting your First Amendment rights, federal agents shot you in the head with a pepper ball, correct?
That's correct. A pepper ball, the manufacturer of which says can be deadly if shot at the head, face, and other sensitive areas.
Well, it turns out that ICE isn't just disregarding the law outside the facility, but apparently inside the Broadview facility as well. Here's an email I received from a constituent who was detained at the Broadview facility. It said, and I'm just going to quote one part, "My dad was sent to Mexico, but he told me he signed his voluntary leave because the conditions were so inhumane inside the Broadview facility." I talked to him last night, Pastor Black. He said that there were up to 60 people kept in one cell, and he was forced to sleep standing up. Now, Pastor Black, coercing people to give up their rights isn't just illegal, it's morally wrong, right?
That is absolutely correct.
And members of Congress are being denied our rights as well. I went to Broadview on 2 occasions and demanded entry into the Broadview facility to conduct oversight and pursue legislation regarding this issue, as is my right under Section 527 of the DHS Appropriations Law. But ICE has turned me away. Now, Mr. Fee, this is blatantly illegal, correct?
You're absolutely within your rights. Excuse me, you're absolutely within your rights to get into that facility, yes.
The law is the law, Mr. Fee, and it needs to be followed. President Trump needs to respect not only First Amendment rights of protesters, not only must respect the right of human dignity, but he can't stop shielding himself from transparency from Congress. Let me turn to my final topic. Ms. DeJesus, it's clear to me that many of DHS's actions reflect racial profiling, and that these actions have in turn emboldened racist vitriol against minority communities everywhere. By indiscriminately targeting Latino, Caribbean, and even South Asian communities, DHS and ICE have given license to hateful racists to harass anyone in those communities. Would you agree with me on that?
Yes, I do.
Last month, a Florida official, his name is Chandler Langevin, said that all Indians should be deported from the United States. I then called him out on this racist rhetoric. Here was his response. Referring to me, he said, I would like to report a foreign occupier. Name, unpronounceable. Country of origin, Tatooine, a reference to Star Wars. The truth is, as a public official in this day and age, I've come to expect this type of attack and have the tools to fight back. But most victims aren't in the public eye. They're everyday Americans of color. I'd ask each of the witnesses here to please respond to this, which is, have you experienced your own clients being negatively impacted by racial profiling? Mr. Benito? Audibly, please.
Yes.
Miss O?
Yes.
Pastor Black?
Absolutely.
Bob Ryder?
Yes.
Miss De Jesus?
Yes.
Miss Homani?
Yes.
And of course, Mr. Fee.
Yes.
DHS's actions aren't law enforcement. They amplify racial targeting, and they amplify the worst in people. We are not going to stand for this. We're not going to bow to the intimidation of the Trump administration. Thank you, and I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Krishnamurthy. Let me now recognize a member of the Immigration Subcommittee of the full House Judiciary Committee, Representative Jasmine Crockett from Texas.
Thank you so much, Madam Ranker, and thank you so much to our witnesses for being here today. You know, I've sat and I've listened, and what my colleague, Mr. Krishnamurthy, just talked about was just blatant racism. Like, I'm going to just call a thing a thing. Like, this administration is racist. That he has always been a racist, and that is what we are enduring in this country. Let me give you some facts behind this racism. And they get mad when I say the things that I say, but I will not stop speaking the truth. Number one, I said that what we were experiencing in this country felt like what I would imagine slave patrols to look like. And frankly, anybody that knows anything about slave patrols, this is exactly what it was like. We're talking about lawless people that are going around with no warrants or anything, and it's all about rounding people up and disappearing them. That is what's currently taking place. And interestingly enough, even though modern day policing was born out of slave patrols, when I was speaking with one of my friends who is a federal law enforcement officer, he told me that one of the things that he has observed is that the culture is created at the top. And when I think about it, it absolutely makes sense. If you have somebody at the top that will not tolerate the types of things that we're seeing, then maybe those under you won't do it. But we know that we have a racist at the top. He has called himself the head law enforcement agent in this country, and therefore everybody has decided that it is okay to take off their hoods and mask up as ICE agents. Now, we've talked about how they have hidden themselves, but again, it reminds me of the Klan. That is why I proposed the Clear ID Act, to make them identify themselves, because it is dangerous for law enforcement as well as individuals, because you don't know, especially with ICE going around and doing the things that thugs do. They're busting out windows, they're breaking into homes, they're breaking people's arms. This doesn't sound like law enforcement. It sounds like thuggery to me. But just like you can have somebody at the top that sets the tone for ugliness going down, you guys are blessed, because in the city of Chicago, you have a mayor. You have a mayor that has decided that he will not back down. He will not bend to this administration, and instead he will stand up for the people. You have a man of valor that is going up against a villain, and I think that we have to make sure, especially while we're in his city, that we recognize his leadership because it is invaluable. Now, some people think that this is all about Chicago, but I want people to understand that this cancer is infecting us everywhere, and if you don't think that it can come to your city, well, I've got news for you. You see, we've been talking about the cruel and unusual punishment that is in violation of the 8th Amendment that is being handed out. And honestly, it's a spit in the face of every American that we have an actual convicted felon that feels aggrieved to the extent that he feels like he's owed hundreds of millions of dollars when people are literally dying under our watch. Recently, I just sent a letter, it looks like on October 22nd, to Kristi Noem. And one of the things that I laid out is that we have seen the most detainee deaths in ICE custody in a single year in decades, with 20 deaths in the last 9 months compared to 24 deaths in the prior 4 years. Now, this week, we learned that an individual who went to the Dallas ICE field office for a routine visit, meaning that they were doing things the quote-unquote right way, they were detained. They knew that this individual had diabetes and required insulin every 2 hours. Despite ICE having been told this, the individual was denied access to their medication for 8 days, resulting in hospitalization. There are some that say that we are making America great. But to me, it doesn't feel like greatness. It feels like grossness. That's right. And in fact, I want to ask a few questions, and it doesn't matter who answers them. Is it great or gross to go into people's houses and drag them out in the middle of the night?
Gross.
Gross.
Is it great or gross to make people afraid to do something as simple as go to school?
Gross.
Is it great or gross to make hard-working people say, I am too scared to show up to my job?
Gross. Extremely gross.
Thank you so much to each and every one of you for your courage. Thank you so much for showing up. And Ms. O, I want to tell you that I understand that your mother is being detained in El Paso. I did go and visit that facility. I want you to know that I am always on my job. Oh, you're back.
Thank you so much, Representative Crockett. Now let me recognize Representative Sean Casten from Illinois.
Thank you, Ranking Member Jayapal. Mr. Ryder, you closed your opening remarks referencing the Epstein files. I want to share a story. I was talking with a teacher in Berwyn, and she said one of the parents of one of the students in her class said, I am less concerned about whether a masked, unidentified ICE officer seizes my child than I am with whether a child trafficker dressed as a masked, ununiformed ICE officer seizes my child. And I want us all to understand that Donald Trump is not the only child predator who is being protected by Mike Johnson, who is being protected by Kristi Noem, who is being protected by every one of our Republican colleagues who refuses to do their goddamn job right now. And we got to call that out in the same way Jasmine Crockett just did. I can get real emotional here, but I'm going to try to stay within the bounds of the law, at least for a little while. Mr. Fee, Fifth Amendment says that every American, not every American, everybody within our borders has a right to due process. 14th Amendment says that everybody has afforded equal protection under the law. The Fourth Amendment, the Eighth Amendment, no unlawful search and seizure. You can't be detained, cruel and unusual punishment. At what point in ICE's current process are they affording detainees with those rights?
It's difficult to identify any point in the process where they're following any of their detainees' rights consistently.
So is there a timing? When do they provide somebody with information? What's the legal basis for your detention? When do they provide people with notification of your due process rights? Ever?
In the instances that I've been involved with, it has not happened.
And is there any, I mean, we all watch cop shows, right? We all know the Miranda warning. Is there any exemption that ICE is not obligated to provide people with their constitutional protections that other law enforcement agents have?
Absolutely not.
Okay, so let me shift now to Broadview. ICE right now has this online detainee locator system, which is not mandated by law, right? This is They're providing this that you can look and see if somebody is being detained. That database does not provide any information about anybody in these quote-unquote temporary holding facilities, correct?
That's right.
Okay, so nobody knows. People get picked up off the street, they get swept up, they get disappeared. They don't know what their rights are, and we don't know where they are. Is that legal under any reasonable reading of the Constitution?
Absolutely not. And these folks are denied access to counsel as a matter of policy. And they're constitutionally entitled to that, and they do not receive it.
Okay. Several of our witnesses, I think Pastor Black had mentioned this, I think I'm forgetting, but several of you had mentioned that if you're breaking the law, there are consequences that can be held. I know people had mentioned our governor should maybe step up, maybe our attorney general. My understanding is that a lot of the enforcement of law is typically done by district attorneys, state's attorneys. Can you give any sense of the process for state's attorneys and district attorneys who are watching today? What process would they need to go through to prosecute ICE officers who, as law enforcement officers, are expressly violating people's constitutional protections? And whether you want to talk about breaking and entering, whether you want to talk about unlawful search and seizure, whether you want to talk about murder, I mean, all of these things seem to be happening. What is the process? Do states' attorneys have the ability to use that right now? District attorneys, what would they have to do in order to begin bringing penalties against these individuals?
I'd have to defer to my colleagues in the state government, but certainly folks have the right to get civil remedies against violations of the Constitution by federal law enforcement, and people are moving in that direction and are seeking that redress in courts.
Okay, well, I hope we can give some thought about that. California several years ago did bring charges against an ICE officer. Now, he was off duty when they did it, but there is a precedent for state officials doing that. And, you know, those of us who are out here who are angry, we're responsible for writing the laws. We don't have law enforcement authority, and I think our law enforcement partners can help. Pastor Black, I'd like to give you the final word, and I see I'm running out of time here. Speaker Johnson famously said, if you want to know what I believe, just read the Bible. You want to preach for us of any particular passages from the Bible that he might want to be reminded of as he thinks about whether or not he should do his job?
Thank you, Mr. Caston. This is the same speaker who said that it is not a problem in his view that an American pastor, a Protestant pastor of a mainline denomination, was shot in the head by ICE officers. I am reminded that the God of my religion is one who became incarnate to be among us and to suffer the way that we suffer. And I believe that Jesus is alive and active in all that we are experiencing right now, and that he is with those who are being detained, that he is suffering as they suffer. When I think, Mr. Caston, that you describe it very well when you describe this Operation Midway Blitz as a human trafficking operation, which is being federally sanctioned. We need help. When the federal government is attacking American citizens, who will protect us? The front line should not just be the brave mothers, Latina mothers, who are stepping up to organize our communities. We need every arm of our government to bring all their powers to bear to protect us, for those whose salaries we pay with our tax dollars, to protect us in real time every day.
Thank you. Yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Caston. Let me now recognize Representative Jonathan Jackson from Illinois.
Thank you so much. I'd like to say a very special thank you to your outstanding leadership, Ms. Jayapal, for convening us. Thank you, Congressman Danny Davis. And my opening statements are, when the agents of the federal government conduct raids in our nation's cities without due coordination with local authorities, when they detain or harass citizens and lawful residents alike, under the guise of immigration enforcement, we are not witnessing the rule of law, we are watching its betrayal. When ICE agents under the orders from Washington sweep through neighborhoods like an occupying force without warrants, without probable cause, and without respect for the local governance, they cease to be defenders of order. This administration's defenders will tell you these are isolated incidents, necessary measures, unfortunate but justified. But that is the oldest song in an oppressor's book of hymnals. When federal agents operate beyond oversight, beyond constitutional limits, It is not security, it is anarchy cloaked in uniform. Chicago is not a battlefield, it's an American city, and its people, whatever their documentation status, are entitled to the protection of the Constitution. The Fourth Amendment does not vanish at the border of policy convenience, nor does federalism cease when Washington grows impatient with local dissent. We cannot allow federal agents and their might to trample local law, nor permit power to masquerade as patriotism. I was along with my colleague, Congressman Krishna Murthy, just down the block from here. We went to visit a federal facility where citizens were being coming in, and people of different documentation were reporting in. We had the law enforcement called on us. The law enforcement was confused. They didn't know whether they should protect the federal officials or whether or not they should go against the local enforcement. They were confused. This is creating anarchy. I had the privilege of going into the 2nd Congressional District with my colleague, Congressman Robin Kelly, in a building in foreclosure. Some of the poorest people in the country were met with the most lethal weapons of the United States government. There also was met by a veteran, a U.S. citizen that has served in Desert Storm. He said his PTSD was triggered. It was a night of helicopters and bombs that were going off for tear gas. Our children are smelling tear gas on U.S. cities. We cannot allow the federal government to do this. The targets are no longer undocumented immigrants alone. They are lawful residents. They are veterans. They are U.S. families. The president said he was going after felons. Now he is going after families that are all being swept up in these raids. Chicago is a city that has long embodied the American experiment, diverse, defiant, and determined. It is now treated like an occupied territory. This is not federalism. This is a federal intrusion. Power unbound by principle is not strength. We are witnessing decay. The tragedy of these raids is not only in the fear they sow, but the faith they erode. Faith in government, in justice, in the idea that America still belongs to all of us who lives within its promise. If this is how the federal government acts towards its own, then the true crisis is not at the border, it is in Washington, D.C. For you, Mr. Reitner, I have a question. The Trump administration claims that its aggressive immigration enforcement activities are necessary to protect jobs for American workers. Can you describe how indiscriminate immigration raids and mass deportations ultimately harm, not help, American workers?
Yes, thank you, Congressman Jackson, and as a proud resident of the 1st Congressional District.
Which district?
The 1st Congressional District. I've seen this in operation all across all of our communities. This immigration terrorism that Donald Trump is perpetrating is wrecking our economy and is causing disruption to both business and labor. That's why you've seen not only the Chicago Federation of Labor, but also the Chicago Chamber of Commerce stand up against this massive disruption that's hurting workers, it's hurting consumers, it's hurting it's hurting everyone regardless of their citizen status. But I would say also, in saying that our undocumented immigrant workforce has been here holding up and supporting our community for more than a century. And they are as much entitled to participate in our economy in all the things that they do as anything else. And instead of trying to scare people out of this country, we should be looking for a pathway to citizenship for everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Reitner. And I'd like to also say thank you, Reverend Black, and I'm sorry for the atrocious behavior that was afforded to a member of the clergy. That is absolutely a new low. Is there anything you'd like to say to Speaker Johnson?
I'd like to invite Speaker Johnson to come to church or perhaps one of our Bible studies where we get deep into the Word of God and have it form our consciences and our feet and our hands and our voices, how we are called to be in these times.
Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you, Representative Jackson. It is now an honor to recognize Representative Mary Gay Scanlon, who is on the Immigration Subcommittee with me, and also the ranking member of the Constitution Subcommittee, very important committees within Congress. Representative Mary Gay Scanlon from Pennsylvania.
Thank you, Representative Jayapal. Look, more than a dozen members of Congress have been in Chicago for the last 2 days, hearing testimony from community members, clergy, civil rights lawyers, child advocates, and representatives from lawyers and from labor and business. And what we have heard is shocking. Right now, Chicago is a place of widespread fear, chaos, and lawlessness. But it is masked and armed federal agents who have brought that fear, chaos, and lawlessness. Just look at this morning's Chicago papers. Here we've got Chicago Sun-Times. Feds arrest high school students and tear gas protesters. Chicago Tribune has a story about Bovino. He's the head of the federal task force that is inflicting all this chaos. He was filmed tossing tear gas canisters at protesters after a court ordered that tear gas not be used. It's right here inside the paper. There's video as well. Look, this is just this morning. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Federal agents have engaged in dangerous traffic stops, wrecking cars, shooting motorists, endangering pedestrians, and provoking confrontations. There's video of ICE agents shooting one of our witnesses here today, Pastor Black, while he was praying outside a detention facility. Federal agents have detained children, including American citizens, on their way to school. They've deployed tear gas near elementary schools, and they've zip-tied children snatched from their beds in the middle of the night. Small business owners, taxpayers, and workers have been grabbed at their workplaces and from their cars. Surveillance drones and military helicopters terrorize neighborhoods at night. Children are traumatized. Families are afraid to leave their homes. It's important that we have this oversight hearing because the American people need to know about the chaos and the lawless acts being committed in their names and with taxpayer dollars here in Chicago. It's important we have this hearing to expose the lies and establish the facts about what's happening in Chicago and why Americans should be concerned that this abuse of power and lawlessness could come to their city or their town next. Americans may be shocked by all of this, but we can't turn away. We must not turn away, because if we do, this chaos, this lawlessness, the use of masked and armed forces against Americans could come to your neighborhood next. It's important that Congress demand accountability for these lawless actions of federal agents when this administration will not, and in fact encourages it. This is an important conversation that our Republican colleagues in Congress are refusing to have, but the evidence is damning. The White House is lying to the American people when it says our cities are war zones and that the military has to be sent in. The White House is lying to the American people when it says that it is making our country safer by deploying armed forces to American cities. And the White House is lying when it says that it is targeting armed and dangerous undocumented immigrants. That's why we can't look away. When Americans see reckless and violent ICE raids, whether in Chicago or LA, Pennsylvania, on farms, small businesses, and in factories across the country, they know it doesn't make us any safer. When masked agents grab people from their homes and workplaces and the courts and schools, when families are torn apart, when the administration spends taxpayer dollars to produce slick videos and instill fear in communities, endorsing brute force over the rule of law, when hundreds of American citizens have been wrongfully detained during these lawless raids, this dangerous disregard for the rule of law impacts every single one of us. None of this makes America or Americans safer, and all Americans should be terrified and disgusted as this White House unleashes armed and masked agents in uniforms on our cities, turning our streets into combat zones. So there are important lessons to be learned from what's happening here in Chicago. It's important to understand the administration is not making people safer. It's important to understand the terror that's been unleashed. But it's also important to understand that members of the Chicago community are standing up to demand accountability. They're organizing to document the abuses, and they're bringing actions in court to restrain the federal abuses and vindicate the rights of individuals. Mr. Fee, you've been on the front lines here with the legal efforts. You've raised the important issue that the administration has made a series of outrageous claims, and when they've put those claims to the test, they don't have the proof. Can you just give us a brief comment about that and how the courts have impacted it?
Absolutely. I think the common thread that runs through the biggest of the cases that have come out of the district court in the Northern District of Illinois over the last couple of weeks is that the facts on the ground simply do not match up with the claims that this administration is making, whether it's Judge Ellis in the Chicago Headline Club case, concluding that this notion that there's a violent mob threatening people in Chicago when in fact there are people exercising their First Amendment rights just doesn't line up with the facts. Likewise, in the National Guard case, there are no facts to suggest that there is a rebellion or anything of the sort in Chicago.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Representative Scanlon. Let me now recognize Representative Sylvia Garcia from Texas, who is a former member of the Immigration Subcommittee and has been to every one of our shadow hearings.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to all the witnesses and to all my colleagues who have joined us here today. Since I'm from Texas, let me first start with an apology to Chicago. The last time I was here, I joined the members of the House who had fled Texas to avoid a redistricting map mess. And now here I'm back here to support you.
They're very nice.
Oh, thank you.
I like
Well, thank you. And I want to apologize because just as we've not given Donald Trump any authority to do some of the things that he's doing, we certainly don't think we've given authority to Governor Abbott to send troops here. And the members of the Texas delegation, the Democrats, I had an op-ed just published last week, and I wanted to just read one sentence before I start my questions. Deploying the National Guard is undermining our civil liberties and states' rights. Our governor has abandoned his duty to serve Texans, to serve Trump's illegal and unconstitutional orders. Abbott's must recall the deployment of the Texas National Guard instead of allowing Trump to use our service members as political props in his pursuit of authoritarian control. So, Madam Chair, I'd like to ask unanimous consent to submit this for the record. Now, I've heard a lot those last few days, and the words that keep recurring are fear, disruption, chaos. And many of you have also suggested, and one of our witnesses yesterday even said that her father asked her to tell the world that they're telling lies. ICE is telling lies. So I want to give each one of you an opportunity, and in the interest of time, I have 4 minutes left, so I need you all to just speak for 30 seconds each so that I can, if there's one big lie, if this man is king, he is king of the lies, so there's a lot to choose from. But what big lie would you like to tell the world about what Donald Trump, the felon in the White House, is doing? Benita, we'll start with you, and we'll just work our way across. What big lie?
I'd just reference again the case in which ICE murdered Silverio Villegas Garcia. Again, we have video that the facts do not add up. This was an unarmed man.
Okay, Ms. O?
Simply that he will make America great again.
Sorry, I didn't hear it.
I said that he will make America great again.
We just heard from my colleague, he's making America gross. Pastor?
I would name the false testimony that Donald Trump has any fundamental power. The power belongs to the people in this nation. And I would say that it is a mistake when we respond to his fear and insecurity with our own. It's time for us to rise up.
Thank you, Pastor. I agree. Mr. Ryder?
That Donald Trump cares more about this country than his privilege. His privilege is what he cares about more than anything else.
I would name the fake claim that a chief of the Latin Kings put a hit out on ICE, and it turns out that
That's another big lie. All right.
On October 4th, it was never 10 cars that were blocking in feds. It was feds hitting a civilian and shot her 5 times, almost killed her.
That any of this is motivated by a sincere care about the rule of law. It's not.
Since you're the lawyer in the group, and I'm a former lawyer and judge, what is the biggest lie his lawyers are telling the courts?
It's difficult to choose. I would say the notion that there is any sort of emergency situation in the city of Chicago that would justify having troops in the streets of an American city stands out.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I wanted to hear from each one of them because I think all of us have certainly heard so many compelling stories. But it's obvious that no matter what is said and what proof they're presented in court with those videos, this administration continues to be the king of lies. It continues to do nothing but misinformation to the public. So thank you so much for doing this to clear up some of those lies. With that, I yield back.
Thank you, Representative Garcia. Let me now recognize Representative Rashida Tlaib from the state of Michigan.
Thank you so much, all of you, for being here. My yumma, who's a Palestinian American, calls Chicago Chicago, and I just love it. And you probably have heard the beautiful immigrant accents. But I can tell you, Laura, we're all Laura's daughter. That's what I'm going to call you, if that's okay. To Laura's daughter, we have your back. I know it doesn't feel like it, but the majority of American people are very much opposed to what is happening to your mother. And I want you to know, even though so many want to dehumanize her, she sells tamales on the corner, the fact that a warrior is standing before members of Congress right now speaking on behalf of her and so many immigrants across the country, immigrant neighbors, they're just our neighbors. Thank you. Thank you. Tell your mother that I want you to know just that you stood here unapologetically yourself, and your mother should be so proud of you in speaking up. Thank you. You know, you all know, and I love to start in my roots. I am from the most beautiful, blackest city in the country, the city of Detroit. And Pastor Black is speaking to me because I know transformative change doesn't come from the White House, nor does it come from members of Congress. Civil Rights Act wasn't an idea from Congress. It was an idea grew from the streets, from community that said enough is enough. The right to organize unions, right, Bob, didn't come because somebody in the White House woke up one day and said, wow, organizing unions might be a good thing to make sure people are not dying at work. It was when people from the outside withheld their labor and they fought back. And so I want to talk about this thing, and I know I'm always say it wrong, it's NIMBY, like not in my backyard. This sense of Chicago is our backyard. The apartment building where the Black Hawk landed is an apartment building across the United States. We should not think, well, it's not happening in our backyard. I think it's important too, and I say this lovingly to my colleagues, we were warned by our immigrant neighbors that were attacked for saying abolish ICE, or attacked for calling out what ICE was doing. They warned us, stop funding them. They're too militarized. They're doing checkpoints in our community. They warned us over and over again. In Southwest Detroit, where I grew up, 20 different ethnicities, home of Mexican Town, they warned us. And we did nothing but continue to fund and allow us, our country, to move away from family reunification into criminalization. So I want to center us on that because I think it's important, because when we get that gavel back, I want us not to forget this moment. You know, Bob, it's so hard for me sometimes, even when people talk about the economics. I know this. I know who's building our country. I know who's at our border like, come on, I need you. It's not the employers, though, that are in detention centers. It's the ones who make the most money off of it. They don't want them coming out of the shadows because they'll join unions. They'll get better pay. They'll get health insurance. You all know this. His billionaire friends profit off of our broken, inhumane immigration system. It's very clear to me. But I want my colleagues to know this. This is literally how they're recruiting I don't need to go to Southern Law Poverty to see that they're recruiting literally like this. This is on the Homeland Security, their page. This one. Think about how many criminal illegal aliens you could fit in this bad boy. Want to deport illegals with your absolute boys? This one, look at it. Secure the golden age. America needs you. Join ICE now. You guys need to understand. DHS is now being led by figures affiliated with extremist ideology. You know, Stephen Miller. It's already well documented. I ain't making this up. He literally is documented that he's anti-immigrant extremism. He loves, promoting the racist dystopia, the novel The Camp of the Saints. Look it up. That's who's running DHS. I want my colleagues to remember this, because when we get the gavel back, we got to know they're already there. We got to address white supremacy within our agencies that are attacking our immigrant neighbors. I want you all to know, as I end this, and I was going to ask Mr. Fee, because Sean Caston's right. I can't believe I can't find my residents. Literally for days. 12 days at most, one family. She had 3 kids. They had her sleeping in the cot, like on the floor. And I didn't know where she was. I just couldn't find her. And I'm a former immigration lawyer, and I'm like, what is going on here? Enough. When we say disappeared and kidnapped, we mean disappeared and kidnapped. We can't find them. All of us have experienced it already. So I want ACLU to work with us and other legal agencies. We need to end that. When we get the gavel back, let's fix it so we can know where our loved ones are. And I'll end with this. Remember this. Again, my city. Detroit is just like Chicago, was a critical stop to the Underground Railroad. When I see businesses in Chicago putting stickers out saying, we've been trained to create safe haven for you. When I see people being trained to deliver groceries and making sure they're not followed, all of that to create, it may not be an Underground Railroad, but we are the ones going to protect us and make us safe, not an agency that recruits like this. And Madam Chair, thank you. We didn't have to be here. I want you all to know, my colleagues, and it's not to give us credit, just know this. We needed to bring this light, and they won't give us a hearing on this. They don't care. Exactly. You know when they're going to care? Bob, you know this. And that's what sickens me. It's not the humanity issue, the moral issue, Pastor. It will be because the billionaires are now starting to see that they're losing money. But I don't want them coming back to work until we have real, just, humane immigration system so they can come out of the shadows, so these folks cannot continue to profit off of this system that continues to do what they're doing to our children and to our immigrant neighbors. It's sickening that Laura's daughter has to be here shedding tears.
Thank you.
All she wanted to do is protect her family and to give them an opportunity. Shame on us.
Shame
on us
so
for
much,
continuing to
Representative
fund
Tlaib.
this agency.
We have 2 more people to get to before we get to the press conference, and so thank you so much for your leadership and your impassioned words. I do want to acknowledge that Cook County Board President Tony Preckwinkle is in the room. Thank you so much for hosting us. So appreciate you. Let me go to Representative Becca Ballant from the state of Vermont, who also serves on the Judiciary Committee.
One more. There we go. There we go. Thank you, Ranking Member Jayapal. Thank you for the entire Democratic delegation from Illinois that are here. Thank you for hosting us. But most importantly, thank you for being willing to come here and tell us exactly what's going on, because I can tell you our constituents are enraged too. They're enraged by what this government is doing in our name. They are enraged on your behalf. They hate what they're seeing on their TV screens and their phone screens, and they want us to be here witnessing and spreading the alarm, and that's why we're here. And I want to be really clear. And some of us were talking about this yesterday. This is all about abuse of power. From the illegal firings of federal workers, to taking away people's health care, to destroying the East Wing of the White House, and now being here watching the ways in which they are terrorizing neighborhoods here in Chicago and across this country. It is about abuse of power. And as I said, we are enraged. And yesterday we had an opportunity to hear from people who are directly impacted by the terror that is being wrought here in Chicago. People snatched off the street, disappeared. People who are dropping their kids off at school. People who are just trying to go to work. The big lie, they are not criminals. They do not have criminal records. These are people, the backbones of our communities, that are being hauled off. And each person spoke about how their family members were not treated with the respect and the dignity, the human dignity that they all deserve as human beings. And one woman told us that her mother had said how shocked she was that here in the United States, she could be treated with so much inhumanity on our watch, in our name. Pastor Black, I know you know something about this. You were down protesting peacefully. You were praying. You were shot with pepper balls to the head. It's a shocking video of unnecessary violence. And you're not the only religious leader that has tried to give comfort to those who have been detained, and ICE has refused entry. Can you please tell me why you feel called in this moment to stand up for immigrants in this dark, dark hour?
Thank you. I do feel called. I have been going to Broadview not so much as a protester, but as a minister, someone who believes deeply in the good news and the promise that in the darkest of times there is a dawn coming. And I am grateful for Representative Tlaib and the ways that she calls to our minds the way that this moment echoes so many other moments of American history, where we have seen the darkness gathering, and we have also heard the proclamation of those communities most oppressed, who find the hopefulness for justice and for peace. My calling in these days is to stand in solidarity with those who are in the exact position that Jesus himself was put in when he was tried and brought on fallacious charges to his execution. It is very clear to me where God is in this, and the mandate of my faith is to be with my God and to denounce and decry those like Speaker Johnson, to tell them to get the name of my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ out of your mouth if you are going to participate in the desolating sacrilege that we are witnessing.
And Pastor Black, what does it say about us as a nation that we are allowing this kind of inhumanity?
The time is always right to wake up and to join with the sinews of the people who have been organizing and coming together in communities bonded by love and solidarity for generations. So long they have been anonymous, and for just a moment, they've come to center stage as they have been brutalized by ICE agents, by federal agents with a federal mandate to shoot them in the face with chemical weapons. And it is always time to look to where the body of Christ is forming in our nation, because that is a body of justice that is seeking peace and liberation for all people.
A body of justice. I want to give Ms. Genesis O the last word here. I was very, very moved by your remarks. I have 2 teenagers myself, and you are being called to be wise and strong beyond your years. And I know that young people across this country would love to know from you what it is that they need to think about in this moment from the experience that you've had, speaking directly to teenagers across this country.
Honestly, don't take anything for granted. Don't take anything for granted. It can all come to an end really quickly. And sadly, we're in conditions where you just have to be prepared, and you have to be strong. You have to be mentally strong, physically as well. And I send strength to everybody out there, that a lot of people that are going through the same thing as I am. And we're gonna stay strong, and we're gonna get through this all together.
We are. we are going to stay strong and we're going to get through it together. Thank you so much, and I yield back.
Thank you so much, Representative Ballant. Last but certainly not least, another member of the Judiciary Committee, Representative Sidney Kamlager-Dove from California.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for hosting this meeting.
Mute, touch the mute.
Can you hear me?
One more time.
One more time.
Oh, push the green light.
Green. I want to thank you all for your testimony. Work it out for me.
We have a couple former members of the board here.
I want to thank you for. I want to thank you all for your testimony. I want to thank you all for your time. I want to thank you all for your courage. As someone who was born in Lincoln Park and grew up across the city of Chicago, including the South Side and Bronzeville, I can tell you that I know this city's strength, and I am seeing it here today with this panel. I also have to share with you that the stories that you all have shared are eerily similar to the stories that have happened in my city in Los Angeles, where ordinary folks are defying the terror and upholding the law. Mm-hmm. And I want to share one of those stories with you. Enrique Lozano, a constituent of mine, 20 years in the city of Culver City, selling ice cream, selling paletas. He was working the day that he was stopped by ICE. And he told ICE that I'm not doing anything wrong. And ICE said, well, you fit the description of what we're looking for. And they snatched him. They kidnapped him for 114 days. He was given only one phone call that lasted just 40 seconds. And he was kidnapped and transferred from California to New Mexico to Florida before we were able to bring him home. And I told his niece that I was coming here. And she wrote this to me. She said, many people are not as lucky as my uncle. He says that he always told himself that if he were ever to be put in a cell with 4 walls, that he would die. But on the contrary, it made him stronger. And his message to Chicago is never lose faith. Keep fighting. Never look back, and you will be okay. We are united. So I have some questions. You know, Kimberly mentioned that they were so concerned about his care. And Mr. Benito, we don't talk much about the care that's not being offered in these detention centers. And we certainly don't talk about the women, the pregnant women, the recent mothers who have been detained. Many of them denied care. They are having miscarriages and childbirths. They're being shackled while they are giving birth. It is inhumane. It is why I reintroduced the Pregnant Women in Custody Act. Mr. Benito, how urgent are these reforms needed in these immigration detention centers today?
We need it now. I mean, when you do not have due process, when our members of Congress that have, right, by law, the right to oversee what's going on in these centers and are being denied or are being told you need to send an email and talk to, so it is not accountability or oversight when ICE dictates the terms of when members of Congress can go into a detention center, right? And so we need accountability. We need accountability and transparency now, and we ask, right, as you go back to D.C., to use whatever powers that you have to demand ICE be forthcoming with what they are doing and be accountable to the people.
Thank you. And Bob, you've talked so much about the workforce and the economic fallout. How are unions stepping up to protect workers from the economic fallout of a kidnapping agenda that actually prioritizes fear over fairness?
So we've done a number of things over the course of the last couple of years leading up to this, and I would also say that another part of the big lie is that this is good for workers, because it's not. We've done Know Your Rights campaigns. We are in the community educating both our members, their families. But even before that, we were doing citizenship workshops. We were very involved in helping people get to their temporary protected status for asylum seekers. So we're on the ground working with our partners like ICER, like the ICER affiliates, and other and our affiliate unions to make sure that we are getting in the hands of people cards and training and whatever resources they need to protect themselves and their community.
Thank you. And Madam Chair, just indulge me with the last word coming from the pastor. You have a president who's selling Bibles. I am certain that he has not read it. So based on what you see happening outside of churches and schools, how does this align, this kind of terror, align with your religious teachings? Bring it home for us, please.
Quickly, please. We have to wrap to get to the press conference.
It is nothing new for Christianity and the gospel to be co-opted by those who seek to enrich their own power and enrich their own pockets. Going back to the very founding of Christianity, and I won't go all the way there.
Thank you.
But this is nothing new. And there are all around us all the time people who are holding the faith, grandmothers, teachers, elders, children who know the faith of Jesus Christ and are holding it. And that is where I look for inspiration, because we are coming together and a new day is coming.
Thank you, and I yield back. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I want to thank all of our witnesses today for being here, for sharing compelling stories, but most of all, for the work you are doing to protect our democracy. Genesis, I want to say thank you so much to you for your courage, for your resilience, for your bravery, for all of the things that you are enduring as you think about taking care of your little sister because your mother selling tamales was detained. That is outrageous. And the reason that 19 members of Congress from across the country came here, this is not an official hearing. I can't make anyone come. The people that came were the people that wanted to be here. And the reason we are doing shadow hearings is because the Republicans refuse to give us any platform to do these hearings officially. So you know what? We're just going to take the platforms we have. We're going to stand up and ensure that we do everything in our power to hold this lawless, corrupt, inhumane administration accountable. Thank you all to the members. Thank you so much to you. Thank you to Cook County. Members, please convene right here at the back. We're going to